Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie, and I believe that the right book at the right time can change lives, and that all readers should read children's literature, especially adults. So, that's what we do here on the KidLit Love podcast. We celebrate all things children's literature: picture books, early readers, middle grade, and young adult novels for readers of all ages. In each episode, we'll talk with children's literature authors and discuss their books, their hopes, their dreams for readers, their writing process, and much, much more. Whether you're an adult reading to their inner child or connecting the young readers in your life with fantastic books, you've come to the right place. So grab a notebook to build your TBR, and let's get to today's episode of KidLit Love. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the KidLit Love podcast. I'm Stephanie Affinito, your KidLit loving host, inviting you back to another weekly conversation with a children's literature author and illustrator. Today I'm talking with Barbara McClintock. Barbara is the author and illustrator of over 40 books for children, and she's received numerous awards and selections for them, including 5 New York Times Best Illustrated Children's Book Awards, 4 ALA Notable Book Selections, and many others. She's here today to talk about her newest release, a picture book written by the late Tomie DePaola that she brought to life through her illustrations titled, Where Are You, Bronte? In this book, Tomie tells the emotional and deeply personal story about overcoming his grief after the loss of his dog. It's such a beautiful tribute, and I can't wait to talk about it with her, so we're going to go straight to the episode. Barbara, welcome to KidLit Love. I am so excited you're here today.
No, well, thank you for having me. This is really wonderful.
Of course. So, over 40 books, lots of awards. I would love for you to give us a little bit of the backstory on that. Tell us about you. Tell us about some of those books and your journey through children's literature to talking about your newest release today.
Well, I'd like to start out by talking about my very early days drawing pictures because I've always loved drawing and I've always loved telling telling stories in the pictures I draw. So my first memory is from when I was 3 years old, lying on my stomach on the kitchen floor with a crayon in each hand, drawing like gigantic circles, like a big slinky across a piece of paper. And I was,
Oh, I thought you were going to say the floor. Okay, that's
oh, no, that comes next. That comes next. Because my mother was terrified of running out of paper because I wouldn't stop drawing. If there would paper ran out, I did draw on the floors or on the inside of the kitchen cabinet doors or in the bottom of pots and pans, on the wall, on the refrigerator. It was just like I just could not stop drawing. So she'd like dive into the trash can and find like envelopes so I could draw on those. And anyway, so I've always loved to draw. And I've always loved telling stories. If I drew a cat, the cat would be like jumping and singing and dancing, and I was just born as an illustrator, as somebody who told stories, narratives visually. So that was fun.
So I also share your affinity for drawing in places that perhaps I shouldn't have as a child. I have such vivid memories of pretending to be Harold with the purple crayon
Oh,
and
yeah.
and
Oh my
just
gosh.
drawing all over the bedroom walls. I remember that distinctly. I also remember the job of cleaning it up with a soapy washcloth after. Because that was my so-called punishment to clean it up. But I remember the magic I felt feeling like, oh my gosh, I am Harold. I can bring my world to life on my bedroom wall. And it was just such a wonderful memory. And thankfully I had parents who laughed and helped clean, which kind of furthered my love of putting things on paper. Not necessarily drawings. I was not a very skilled Harold. Words were my thing, and those came next. But I could so relate to just the need to put pencil to paper and to see.
Yeah, and and I also had wonderful parents who were very supportive of me drawing. In fact, mom saved a lot of my drawings that I'd done in childhood, and I have this enormous album, like a scrapbook album that she made, assembled of all of these drawings that I did as I was growing up. And I have that I refer back to as I'm doing my drawings now, if I need sort of that sense of like inspiration or spark or
Yes.
something for what I'm doing. So having parents or family members or friends who are supportive of you when you're kind of on that adventure, finding your way from, I love doing this as a child to I'm doing this as an adult, that's so important. It's
Right.
really critical.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So how
yeah.
did you make that leap from being the kid who loved to draw to being someone who decides this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life? How did you go from to there?
Well, one thing was when I got into high school, I started waiting tables at a local restaurant, and I was a failed waitress. So it's just terrible. I was kind of fired or politely asked to leave two waitressing jobs. So I knew that venue, that kind of way of going to a profession was blocked off to me. And math was not my strong suit, but I love to draw. And so I had teachers all through middle school and high school, biology teachers, for example, who would allow me to do drawings of plants or animals or things as part of my science project instead of the math-driven aspect of those courses. So it was wonderful, again, how important it is to have grown-ups who are supportive of you in what you want to do. So I went to college the second part of my growing up was in North Dakota, Jamestown, North Dakota. And I went to college at a college 2 blocks from my parents' house in North Dakota. And in those days, they did not offer courses in children's literature or illustrating books or how to illustrate a book
Mm.
or write a children's book. So it was very frustrating for me. And I knew that, oh, this is what I really want to do. I want to do books. Uh, I read an article about Maurice Sendak in Time magazine, and it said that he lived in Ridgefield, Connecticut. I loved his work. And this is how long ago this was. So I thought, oh, well, I'll just call Maurice Sendak and he'll know what to do. He'll be able to advise me on how to become an author and an illustrator. So his number was listed in Ridgefield information
Wow.
and I called the number and I thought, how bad can this be? He'll either hang up or he'll tell me what I want to know. So like there's no worry involved in this. So he picked up the phone and he was great. He talked to me for 20 minutes. He told me to select a well-known folk or fairy tale and to do a dummy book based on that fairy tale, and then to do 3 finished pieces of art to display how I would show an art director and an editor, kind of the method forward that I would use to illustrate that book. And he advised me to move to New York City, which I did.
Wow.
Really, it was incredible. I um, got on a plane from my little airport in Jamestown, North Dakota, which was the size of probably what my studio is now, and flew to New York. I called the YWCA and asked if they had a room, and they said, "No, I'm sorry, we're booked." And I said, "Well, I'm here from North Dakota, and I'm at Newark Airport, and I need a room. Can you
I need
help?"
help.
So they sent me to a women's hotel and in Manhattan, which I got to, and I booked a room, and I was just so happy. I was living my dream. And I called again, this is a long time ago. I called every editor of every publishing house listed in the Manhattan Yellow Pages and made appointments to go in and show my portfolio. And I started eventually getting work. And I was just really, really lucky. I did not go to art school. I am self-educated, and I learned to draw and to illustrate books by going to public libraries and checking out art books, taking them home, copying the drawings that were in the book, returning them, picking out more books, and then studying, comparing, and contrasting children's picture books that I checked out of the libraries too. So I have the American Public Library system to thank for my education. So it was just, and anybody can do it. It costs absolutely nothing to do. You just go to a library. You will find what you need there. It's just wonderful.
Oh, this is my favorite story ever told on the KidLit Love podcast as an origin story. The bravery that you had in making that phone call and moving across the country and the courage, there's so many beautiful character-driven words that I can think of when I think of you just building this one action, one book, one library visit, one phone call at a time. Oh my gosh, I think I would have been scared to death, and I am so inspired by that story.
Oh, thank you. Well, I
Mhm.
was I after failing at so many other things, at least I knew I could draw. So that was good. It would have scared me to try to get a job working at a bank
Right.
or reapplying at a restaurant to get a
Right.
waitressing job.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there was so much I couldn't do, and this I knew I could do. And so it was like, just dive in,
Yep.
all or nothing, I'm going to make this work, that kind of attitude.
Yeah, you were meant to do that. And what I love too is on this podcast we have a range of listeners. We have educators, librarians, some parents, but also a lot of people who want to be in the kidlit writing and illustrating world. And so I imagine that the story you just told just lit a fire in a lot of people and just raised the level of hope even more that you can do this, and it doesn't have to be this huge expensive feat to learn. You just need to do and try and keep doing and learning and trying. Oh my goodness, I love it. So inspiring. Oh,
Oh, thank you.
so
Well,
from there, we fast forward to over 40 books and lots of awards to go with those books. I would love for you to just name drop a couple of your favorites. Is that like asking you which kid is your favorite? If you
yes, yes, it is, but
the
that's
last
okay. They're going to cover their ears. They're not going to hear this. So I think probably my most successful book was The Gingerbread Man, written by Jim Aylesworth. And that came out quite a while ago, but it's still in print, which is nice. And that sold over 3 million copies worldwide, which is really nice. And my Adele and Simon series have done really well. It's about Adele, a young girl who picks her younger brother. Simon, or Simone is actually the French pronunciation for his name. She picks him up after school and they walk home in Paris uh, in probably about 1912. And the idea of it, I love Paris. And it was just totally selfish. I just wanted to draw pictures of Paris. And I thought, how can I make people look at these drawings? Oh, I'll hide something in every picture. And then it's going to force people to have to look very carefully at all these drawings. So as Adele and Simone or Simon walk home, he loses something in every single picture. He loses a glove or his books or his backpack or his scarf. And the reader has to hunt through the picture and find the hidden thing. And so finally, when they arrive home, Adele is like totally like she's had it with Simon. This is like, I'm okay, you
Yeah.
silly little brother. You're going to get into so much trouble with mom. But there's a knock on the door, and people they have encountered in every picture along the way are standing in a line holding one of his objects to return them. So it's a story with a happy ending.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Have you read The Keeper of Lost Things by Ruth Hogan? I know
No,
that is
I'm
an
writing
adult.
it down now. Okay.
It's an adult recommendation. And so, listeners, if you haven't read this either, it is one of my favorite books. And it is about a man who, for various reasons, spends his life picking up things that other people have lost and lovingly taking care of them and categorizing them and creating stories around them with the intention of reuniting those people with these items that seemingly may be insignificant but likely mean more to the person than they do. It is the most beautiful story. And I feel like after hearing you talk about that, this is an adult book that I think you would adore.
Oh, I will love it. I will love it. And I'm sure Adele and Simon would love it too. I
I love when talking about one book leads to the next book, and then it just, this beautiful domino effect when book people just start talking about titles.
Yeah, I think there's that strong link, that strong continuity of a thought or a concept or something you believe in, and you find it in morphing into various shapes in various books that
Yeah.
you look at, and most books I can kind of pull pieces out of that tie into other books that I've either created myself or have been created by other friends, or tie in with just something that I've been thinking about for a very long time. It's just, yeah, books are magic.
They are. And I think what I really appreciate even more from this podcast is I get to learn the pieces of the authors and illustrators that are in those books that you might not know as a reader just picking it up, but when you get the backstory of now knowing you just really, really wanted to draw about Paris and wanted people to see it, like knowing that, I feel like just makes the appreciation for the books just become magnified even more. I love getting the backstory, which is why I'm here, getting to pick the brains of all the authors and illustrators that I love. So let's fast forward 40 books and let's come to
Okay.
the one of the most recent ones that we're talking about today. Where Are You, Bronte? Which is the final completed manuscript from the beloved Tomie DePaola. Over 270 books under his belt, over 25 million copies. This is a name that we know and love, and you have brought it to life in the most beautiful emotional way. This book, I hugged this book when I was done. I have a list in my notebook of books that I've hugged, and this book I've hugged, and it's actually been on my desk. I always have a pile of books close by, and this one is close because it's just one that gives you all of the feels, the emotional feels for so many reasons. And so I would love for you to tell listeners a bit about that book and a bit about the process of how you came to be the one to bring it to life.
Okay. So Where Are You, Bronte is a book about that Tommy wrote about his beloved Airedale Terrier, Bronte. And Tommy had a number of Airedale Terriers over the course of his life, but Bronte was his way ahead of the pack favorite. And he adopted Bronte as a puppy. Actually, I believe he got Bronte from a breeder in Chicago. So Bronte was shipped in a crate from Chicago to where Tommy was living in Vermont. And he picked Bronte up at the airport. And as they were driving home, he held Bronte on his lap. And so there was that initial bonding experience. And then Tommy goes to bed with Bronte in the case next to him, and that was how they spent the first night. The second night, Bronte whimpers a little, and Tommy caves and said, okay, you can sleep in my bed, supposedly
Yep.
for one night, but it's for the next 12 and a half years. And
You know how that goes.
yeah, I know those pets, they just like sneak their way right into our hearts and our lives. It's really incredible. So anyway, so Bronte grows up as a pup, and we see Bronte and Tommy developing a bond and a relationship. And then Bronte continues to age, and Bronte becomes an old dog and eventually dies. And I think that is just Tommy then is confronted with grieving the loss of his beloved dog and how he kind of gets beyond that. And death is almost like a stoplight at an intersection, and you have to just pause and then move forward and find a new way to adapt to
Mhm.
this animal is and who this pet is or person in your life who you no longer have in their physical manifestations. So So there is this movement ahead where Tommy realizes that Bronte is still there with him in his heart forever. So it
Hmm.
really talks about, and I thought a lot about this. My son actually is director of the Contemplative Studies Department at Brown University. So we talk a lot about this kind of thing, the metaphysical, spiritual
Yeah.
aspect of things. And when I was working on this book, death is a very challenging topic to deal with. It's scary and it's sad, and there are a lot of um, different ways one could approach it. But this way, I wanted this to celebrate what love is and what we are. We are in our physical bodies, and that is how we are carrying our spirit forward from point A to point B. But after point B, the love still exists.
Yeah.
And there is something else that is still driven. And there are many different religious ideas about what happens after people die, but the love is always there and it gets inside us, and that you just cannot get rid of.
Hmm.
That's really what Tommy, the message Tommy had in this book too. So I tried to bring that forward, and I cried a lot when I was drawing pictures for this book. In fact, there is a point in the book where everybody cries, and I try to give people a trigger warning before they start reading this, because it is sad and it is about death and grief and grieving. And anybody who's had a pet or a loved one who has passed away,
Yeah.
it just really kind of triggers a certain response. And I know exactly where it happens in the book. And I see there's a buildup, and everybody's like, oh, this is so sweet. And the dog and Tommy. And then all of a sudden, there's this sort of quiet, and then tears come down cheeks. And when I read it out loud to groups, I usually cry too. I hold the book up in front of my face so nobody can see me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then the message is so affirming, and it's wonderful and it's beautiful, and it's a necessary conversation we all have with ourselves and with others.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's why I hugged the book, because that emotional ride that the reader is on, that many readers reading the book may have experienced in their own real life as well, may have that real connection. That emotional ride was there, but the reader was left on an upward spiral, right? You felt that love, you felt that continuing, whether it was love in the heart, or we'll get to love in the clouds, where that love was found. You end the book in both Tommy's words and in your illustrations in a way that just, it still feels good, right? So you may have cried, but you're at that good cry, emotional feel part. And like you said, this is a book that everybody needs. This happens. Many kids are going to go through this, although I think every adult, whether they have children or not, is going to love and need this book as well. I felt like as I was reading, I have 5 dogs, by the way, so we are big dog lovers in our family. And my oldest, at least the current oldest dog, also is blind, and that is what happened to Tommy's. But and so I could relate to the certain textures of the rugs and putting the certain essential oils by certain doors so that the dog could find it. I just related so much as a reader, and I know that this is a book that, yes, we may cry, and yes, it may be a bit emotional, but these are the books we need, like you said, to give kids an outlet, to give all of us an outlet to feel, to know it's okay. It's a normal process, and hopefully to have a conversation with someone in real life that they love about it, which just makes everything better, at least in my opinion. So this book, it's just so beautiful.
Yeah, well, it's also about creativity, because I wanted to honor the fact that Tommy had that lens on the world through both
Yeah.
being an author and being an illustrator. So he comes to some sort of idea of a transformation of Bronte from the physical dog to Bronte, the dog that is everywhere and in his heart by drawing a picture of Bronte. And actually that happens with everyone who writes, everybody who draws, I think musicians, dancers, anyone, they take one thing and they transform it into something else. That is the whole basis of creativity. So that also, I think, was a message that I hoped to relay in the pictures in this book.
Mhm.
Because Tommy, after losing Bronte, he is very sad and he gets up one morning and walks up to the hill that he and Bronte used to love to climb and stand on top of and look out over the fields and the mountains. And he walks up this hill alone. He stands on top of the hill and he sees a rainbow after the rainstorm. And through the rainbow, he sees a cloud that is in a shape that is like Bronte. And that's
Mhm.
when he has that aha moment
Mhm.
that Bronte hasn't left him.
Yeah.
But he then has, with a sense of purpose, goes down the hill to his studio and draws a picture of Bronte and then puts it into this beautiful Mexican frame that he then can take upstairs with him and place by his bedside table. So he has Bronte in another form with him. And there's so many Easter eggs in this book. There's so many things that I wanted to talk about visually
Yes,
that
please
express
do.
me. So the manuscript is quite short. It fills up a 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and that's it. And it's written so beautifully. It's written in little chapters, actually, that are bracketed by the phrase "Where are you, Bronte?" and going through all of the stages of Bronte growing up and then getting older and the death and then the realization and these things. But there's not a lot of nuance or build up to describing the relationship. So that kind of fell to me to do. And I love Raymond Briggs' The Snowman book. Do you remember that? It's a wordless picture book.
I must. I must. I'm feeling like I think I'm thinking of the wrong snowman book in the moment, but I bet you if I were to look it up, I would.
Yeah, probably, because it came out in the 80s. It came out a long time ago, but it is about a little boy who it's wordless. He builds a snowman. He goes to bed at night and he looks out the window in the middle of the night and he sees the snowman and he decides he's going to go downstairs and go outside and look at the snowman again because there's something sort of alive about the snowman. And indeed, the snowman is alive. And the little boy brings the snowman into his house and they explore all of these little things that to a child are just so momentous.
Mhm.
And to a snowman who's never been in a house are really momentous, like turning a light switch off and on and opening the refrigerator door and opening the oven, which is like, oh no, it's
Right.
like they open the door and peek in at his parents sleeping and all of these lovely things. And then they go outside and the snowman holds the little boy's hand and they go flying off over the English countryside and come back. And it too is about death because the little boy goes to sleep and when he wakes up in the morning and runs downstairs, the snowman is melted. So but it's so beautiful and evocative, and it tells this story of a growing relationship in the pictures. So that was a big inspiration for me approaching how to illustrate the text of this. And I actually ran into somebody not long ago who knew Tommy, who said that he was aware of Tommy working on this manuscript, and Tommy kept saying, I have no idea how I'm going to illustrate this. So at least I got to like pick up the traces for that and sort
Yes.
of move forward with it. But Tommy liked to draw things in Stregonona. There are little panels illustrating,
Yes.
and kind of building up an expression of the community that he was living in. So he doesn't by name talk about all of the people who are coming to Stregonona for cures of one kind or another, but they all have such personality, and you'll really understand what this little town is about by Tommy wordlessly showing you all of these characters. So I also picked up and referenced that as I was doing the illustrations for this book. and he loved folk art and especially Mexican folk art. So the frame he ultimately uses for this picture of Bronte isn't a frame that he actually had. It's one that I found on eBay. I thought, oh, this looks like
Oh,
something
wow.
people would love and it would fit what I'm looking for. And it's in the shape of a heart. Tommy loved drawing hearts. He loved birds. There are
Yep.
birds on either side of this frame. And then there is like a sunburst, these flames coming out of the top. And it just seemed like Tommy, and I know Tommy would have loved it. But throughout the book, there are pictures of objects that Tommy collected and actually had in his house. Tommy also is a wonderful painter, and I have some of my renditions of his paintings happening throughout the book. But I think the biggest Easter egg laden picture of all, it kind of happens in the middle of the book. You open it up, and Tommy has is at and Bronte are at a dinner party. Outside, it looks like a nice sort of Italianate, like lights hanging and a very charming setting. But around the table are characters from Tommy's books. So Stregonona and uh, uh, Oliver Button and all of the just various characters from various books and also his elementary school art teacher who he drew pictures of. And there is a picture of my editor, Celia Lee, and my art director, Laurent Lynn, at the table as well. So it is, and so it's just a kind of, and they're all eating spaghetti, of course.
Yeah.
So this is just and Big Anthony is serving the spaghetti. So it's all of these kind of little things that people can kind of figure out which books they're from and see if they can recognize the characters. It's just kind of a fun puzzle in a way that people can share.
It's a beautiful tribute. It's beautiful because I feel like when you pick it up, you feel him in the pages. You get that feeling of, like you said, whether they're Easter eggs or just the feeling of going through those books. I loved that double page spread in the middle. I can't say pages that are favorites, but I do have to say the one that you already mentioned, standing the top of the hill with the dog and the clouds and the rainbows. Oh, I cried at that page too. I cried more than once. The page that I know you're thinking of, and then the page on this one. But a beautiful cry, right? A beautiful cry. But it is such a beautiful tribute to him while also still being you. And I kept thinking as I read this, how in the world did she do that? How did she manage that? I know. So it sounds like you had a mentor text, you had some ideas in your mind of what you wanted to do. How do you actually go about the drawing? I'm curious. Is it old school pencil paper? Is it sketching and then drafting? And how did you pull it all together? Like literally how? My brain really wants to know.
Well, this book, well, I recently started working on an iPad with Procreate, using
Yep.
Procreate. So the sketches were all done on Procreate, and it's really easy to use, and I can drop color in and do all sorts of things. So that was helpful. But I did the actual finished artwork by hand. So I printed out the pictures, the sketches that I'd done on Procreate on paper. Actually, my publisher did that for me with the type inserted so that I knew exactly where everything was. And I put that on a light box. And then on top of the light box, on top of the sketch on the light box, I put 90-pound watercolor paper. And I traced all of those drawings first with pencil. And then on top of that, I used markers and colored pencils and gouache and watercolors to develop and build the original artwork. So it's all was done on a piece of paper, the finished artwork. And it was really tricky. So trying to blend my style with Tommy's style. So I'm sort of a very old-fashioned, drawing style kind of person. And the previous book I did was a biography of the illustrator Randolph Caldecott, who for whom the Caldecott Award is named. And his work I knew from childhood. I just loved his 19th century style of drawing and his narrative exuberance in the things that he drew. So to kind of honor his drawing style was like falling off a log because it was essentially, where my style kind of sprang from. So
Yeah.
that was something, but this was really different. And Tomie, I kept doing drawing after drawing after drawing to try to duplicate his drawing style. And even though it looks really simple, it is just so challenging to do. It's so unique to him. So I kept
None of
like,
this is simple in my mind.
no, it isn't. It certainly didn't like, it wasn't simple. On the surface, it was like, oh, I could do this. Yeah, sure. And then once I got into it, into the weeds, it was like, oh my gosh,
Mhm.
that's going to be really
Yes.
something. So I had drawings like everywhere on the floor piling up on my desk. I mean, there was just like one reject after the next. And then I thought, well, maybe I'm coming at this in the wrong way. And looking at more of Tommy's work and his paintings, he was every bit as much a painter as he
Mhm.
was an illustrator. So starting from that jumping point where he was really working with shape and color, that was my key through the doorway into getting somewhat close to his drawing style because he really was a colorist. He started with the color first and then did the line work. And I usually do the line work first, and then the color comes like it's like 19th century prints or something. They're tinted or something with color, but that color is his voice. That is his strength. And then the drawings come, that drawing part comes second. So that was an interesting approach, and I'd never painted before. So I experimented with different kinds of paintings and gouache and flat colors with watercolors and just really played around with things for a while. And I guess some people ask me about changing a style and how you keep an authentic voice. And um, I read somewhere from an illustrator who also changed styles a lot that authors often have different voices as well. And an author might have a narrative text that they write, but they may also write poetry. Jane Yolen is a very good example of that because she has done everything from novels to writing poems to things that are extremely simplistic. And yet it's all her. And it's just she gets to stretch out and experiment with all of these different ways that her voice can be utilized for herself and for other people.
Mm.
So that kind of thinking, I think, applies to musicians as well, and probably dancers, but it definitely applies to me and what I try to do in my illustration work.
Yeah. Well, I love how you said in the note at the end of the book. I always love when a book has some back matter to sink into, and you have a beautiful note there. And you talk about this process, and you say, I would get in my studio and try to do these things and ask, what would Tommy do? And how the heck are those simple lines he drew so impossible to duplicate? I just loved hearing you and your voice in that back matter. And now I realize that the frame with his picture in that note on the last page is real, and it's from eBay. And I'm so excited to know all those pieces, how they came together. But I love that you included that to give us a glimpse into that process and into not just the process of creating, but also honoring his name and keeping him on your shoulder as you did this work.
I learned a lot from him by doing this and it's interesting because he was such a wonderful writer. I've always looked at his work in context with the illustrations, so they've always blended together for me. But to just see the manuscript alone, his just the immediacy of the writing and the lyricism of it. I mean, he was just brilliant. He was a brilliant writer. So I learned a lot about writing from reading that, but I also learned a lot about drawing and myself through seeing things through his lens. So yeah, he was definitely like hanging around and like the invisible Tommy, like
Yes.
looking over my shoulder, like, "Oh, maybe you could try this,
Yes.
trying that." And I've grown enormously thanks to working on this book.
Yeah. Yeah. And through that work we get to now enjoy that spirit of one of his final manuscripts too. Oh, I just love it. I do want to mention too, because I'm the kind of person who when I get the picture book, I instantly take the sleeve off because I want to see what is underneath on that page. And the book itself, if you take the sleeve off, it is this beautiful feeling linen like cover with this embossed image of him and Bronte, and it's just gorgeous. I just like want to hold it because it has a different feel to any other book. It just feels like it elevates it and makes it even more special with what's under the sleeve of that beautiful cover.
Well, there's a story about that embossed image. So Laurent Lynn was Tommy's art director for many, many, many books. And he would, as a surprise for Tommy, pick an image and put it on the cover and emboss, image on the cover. And so Tommy loved that. It was always like a surprise. He would just take the. So Laurent did that for this book too. I had no idea what image he was going to pick, and it was the perfect one, the
Yeah,
really perfect one.
it is. And we won't give it away because listeners are going to want to just take that cover off and take a look, but it's like the perfect icing on the cake of the book that just pulls it all together. So what is your hope for the book or your hope for readers as you put this really special tribute book out into the world?
Well, I hope that they understand that permanence is that love is permanent
Mm.
and that we have pets that come into our lives and they creep into our hearts like in the most kind of like we're just unaware of how close we get to them because the love you have with a pet is so simple.
Yeah.
So, and then pets unfortunately don't live as long as people. So, inevitably, you're going to experience the loss of a cat or the loss of a dog,
Mhm.
or many cats or many dogs. And you come to recognize what truly is important. And I think that for children to recognize too that even if a good friend moves away or they graduate from first grade into second grade and they're not with their favorite teacher every day anymore, those beloved people don't go away. It's not just death closing a door. It can be something like that as well. But just how animals, people, situations, a favorite house, a wonderful stuffed animal that's left at an airport, something like that, it is heartbreaking to not have them physically in your life anymore, but you never forget them. They just get embedded into who you are and your personality.
Mhm.
So I'm hoping to give anyone who looks at this book a sense of courage and that when something ends, it doesn't mean that it's just gone. It's there and it's always there in you and your heart. And I'm going to start crying again, so I better stop now
Yeah.
talking about this.
It's so beautifully said. And I'm so glad that you brought up that, yes, the book technically is about the loss of a pet, but it really is so much more. It's a book of comfort for so many things that a reader might be experiencing, which is why I hugged it and why it's still sitting on my desk. And I have a feeling this will be one that is displayed in classrooms and well loved and well hugged, and maybe even a teardrop or two on the page as we go, which shows the power of books, and especially a book like this. It's just gorgeous. It's beautiful. I love it.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Well, I appreciate this so much.
Of course. And we could keep talking about this book for a long time, but I would love to ask if there are any other projects that you're working on that maybe you can give us listeners a sneak peek into.
Yes, I'm working on two projects right now. One is a book for Little Brown, It is called The Ratzel and the Katzel, and it's written by
Cool
Gideon
name.
Steer. Yes, Katzel. And it's about a kingdom of rats and a kingdom of cats, and they have for generations been mortal enemies. And there is a young prince and a young princess who are just of age to start stepping into roles of power. So they're being advised by old advisors about old ways, and the old advisors kind of push towards the development of a war. And the young prince and the young princess take a walk before this war is going to happen one evening, and they encounter each other, and they discover that they have so much in common, and they decide that they are going to change the old ways and bring in new ways. So it's very powerful. It's a
Oh, we need
beautiful
this
book.
book right now. We need this book.
Yes, we do. Yes,
Oh,
we do. So,
wonderful.
so this is I'm working on, and then I'm working on another book that has to do with work. I need a so after and I'll tell you what this book is, but I after this I need something funny to work on. That's all I can say. So yeah, death, war, and then
Right.
I'm working on a graphic novel about the French curator Rose Valland, who worked in Paris during the Second World War when the Nazis had occupied Paris, and the Nazis were stealing artwork from museums, private collections, galleries, and then shipping it by the trainload out of France or Belgium or other countries into Austria and Germany. And Rose, decides to stay behind in this museum, the Jeu de Paume Museum, that was used as a clearinghouse for all this artwork. And she, in secret, catalogs what the artwork is and where it's going at great risk to her life. And the book is called The Light of Resistance. And and it is about standing up to tyranny and not letting some bigger entity, Hitler in this case, a dictator, take away your sense of um, your cultural identification and to fight back through art. So it is going on, and I'm just in the sketch stage for this, and we're reworking sketches and things. But it's a 200 and probably will wind up 250-page graphic novel for middle grade
Oh,
readers.
sounds beautiful. And
It's
I
incredible.
I I love books, especially picture books, middle grade books that introduce us to someone like that, right? That gives us yet another hero to look up to that many of us probably don't know, but quietly and literally could, change things. Oh, I can't wait for
Yeah,
this one.
she cataloged over 6,000 pieces of artwork that was stolen, and after the war, people were able to trace, because of her notes, trace where this artwork was being held and stored. Much of it, some of it is still missing, this artwork, but it's quite a story. It's incredible and it's very inspiring.
Yes, I have like goosebumps thinking about the impact that she had in taking those courageous actions. Oh boy, I have two books now that I get to look very much forward to add to my TBR. Thank you for that. Thank you for your work on, yes, I could see why you might want a very fun, humorous kind of book to break some of that hard thinking that you're doing. But they sound wonderful. Where can listeners find you so that they can keep up to date and know when these books are coming out and get their hands on them?
I have a website, barbaramcclintockbooks.com. And if you go to my website, you will see tags for Instagram and my Facebook account. So you can link on those and follow that, and you'll see all kinds of things. You'll see many pictures of my cats. My husband has a beautiful rose garden. Those roses are just coming out right now. So you can see pictures of those, and you can see my messy studio and
Oh,
some
those
of
are my
the
favorite. I
artwork.
love studio, like just a snapshot of the real life picture of studios and desks. That's like my secret happy place. So yay.
Yeah, and occasional pictures of food. I do like taking pictures of food. I love eating.
Hey, it's the simple pleasures, right? And capturing them makes them feel even more powerful. Oh, I will be on there.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Oh,
You are such an easy person to talk to, and
oh,
I wish you lived next door and I'd hang out and have coffee with you every single day, I
me
think.
too. Me too. I think I would too. I loved our conversation. Thank you so much for coming to talk about this beautiful book. And listeners, thank you for listening to another episode of KidLit Love, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the KidLit Love podcast. You'll find links to all of the books, resources, and ideas mentioned in the show notes and at alitlife.com. You'll also find KidLit Love on Substack. That's where you'll find posts for each episode, monthly KidLit roundups, and an invitation to join my summer book club and go deeper into the world of children's literature. And if you loved this podcast and want more, you might like to listen to my other podcast called Get Literate. It's a podcast that explores all things books and reading, notebooks and writing to build a life you love. One more thing. If you love what you listened to today, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast, or take a screenshot of the episode and text it to a friend. This helps the podcast grow and builds our bookish community of Kid Lit Love. Thanks for listening.